And we're live. It's about that time. It's been too long since we fired up the real estate debate, and today we have a really good one with everything going on in the world. I got my good buddy David Serpa here. What's up, my man?
How are you?
What's up? So it's been too long, brother. Way too long. So
It's been about 3 years since the last time I was on the show.
dang, that's ridiculous. So now, David, you're with EXP Realty. I have your information up on the screen right now. Your home base is really Temecula, right?
Yeah, correct. The Temecula Valley, but my main focus is working with veterans, which I do all over the darn place.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome, and you can do that through EXP pretty easily, huh?
Yes, sir.
So what we're debating today, if you will, discussing, if you will, and David's a very opinionated guy. He's in the real estate business. I'm in the mortgage business. We both do our best to serve veterans as much as possible. This is the post right here that I was referring to. So this is a live video that you did, and here's the caption: is what realtors won't tell you, semicolon, it's a bad time to buy. Everything is changing, ... And this was kind of a walk and talk video that you made, and I commented on there, said, hey, I would love to chat with you about this. So I want to give you the first kind of shot here, David, to just tell us, what did you mean by it's a bad time to buy?
Well, I think that everybody has this different idea where they're always saying it's always a great time to buy real estate. It's always a good time to purchase, and that really depends on who you are and what the time is for you in your life. And I can tell you that for about 95% of us, it is not a good time to buy real estate. I feel like there's several good indicators that are pointing to this being not a good time to buy real estate, including a lot of the banks not really being interested in funding people in order for them to buy real estate.
Mm-hmm. You think that's, what do you think is the cause of that?
Well, the big debate is whether or not this is a systemic issue or whether this is an event issue. Everybody who says it's an event issue compares it to 9/11, 2001, when the country was hit, the stock market took a crash, and people, we recovered relatively quickly. As opposed to 2008, where there was a adjustable rate mortgages with balloon payments, and people were buying way too much house for them. And it was a lot more difficult to recover from because, REO came about, short sales, foreclosures. And I'm telling everyone that this is 2020. This is a totally different time than what we have experienced before, because this is not only going to affect residential real estate, but commercial real estate as well.
Yeah, I think commercial real estate will actually be really where you see the impact of this personally. I'm more bullish than you are. I do believe we're headed to recession. I think it'll probably be one of the shorter recessions that we've seen. But to kind of clarify specifically what you're saying here on the concept of it's not a good time to buy, you did mention something that struck a chord with me, which is, it depends on where you are in your life. It depends on what your circumstances are. The main thing that I wanted to debate was the mindset, the concept that we should be looking to buy real estate only when it's a good time to buy real estate. In other words, only when we know that real estate's going to go up in the near future or something like that, we should buy real estate. That's really kind of what I wanted to chat with you about, because
I think that it couldn't possibly be a worse time to buy real estate right now. And I could give you several reasons.
Okay.
The first is we saw unemployment go up by 10 million people in 2 weeks. It took several months, if not, I think 2 years, for Great Depression to reach unemployment, which peaked at 23%. Our current unemployment is at 23%. The feds are expecting it to go over 30%. One of the many reasons why this is going to affect real estate, specifically in California, is we have an inflated real estate market right now. What's happened is it has become more expensive to buy than it is to rent. And so people are able to qualify for more and more, but then when they find out what their monthly payment is going to be, they say, why would I spend $600 more a month to buy a house? And so we've priced a lot of people out of the market, and then so instead of reducing prices, we reduced rates 3 times in 1 year, artificially keeping people in the market. We made it easier for VA and FHA buyers to buy more house by increasing the limits. And so what we saw was prices went up for 9 straight years, 111 months. And then they started to flatten out in October of 2018.
Yep.
And then instead of adjusting appropriately, we said, let's keep people buying and keep prices going up, because we've identified a good economy in this country as an economy where prices continue to go up indefinitely. And that's not sustainable.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. And but I do think that overall, the concept of real estate and home ownership, and the idea behind there's only so much of it, but we have this exponentially growing population, the price has to go up. Now, it doesn't have to go up at the rates that we've seen. We've seen incredible appreciation. In fact, I have a graphic here that I'll put on the screen, which will show you how much equity Americans are sitting on right now, which is an unprecedented amount of equity. So this is from Bloomberg. 53.8% of all homes in America have at least 50% equity, and 37% of all homes are owned free and clear. And those are numbers that we haven't ever seen, and that's the function of a really long-standing good economy, a long good run for the stock market and things like that. But going back to the idea of now not being a good time to buy, I wanted to circle back with that and connect it to the statement you made earlier about it depends on an individual situation. Because the way I look at the idea of renting and saying, okay, well let's rent for a year or two, and we'll pay, let's say, $2,500 a month for rent, and instead of paying $3,000 toward a mortgage. So we're kind of guaranteed, we're locking in a loss, and that's kind of how I see it. If you have a homeownership strategy in place where you're looking toward the future, the concept of homeownership is to actually own the home free and clear one day. That's really the point. The purpose of buying a house is so that one day you make that final payment, and now you've got options. You can retire, you can start working less, you got things that you can do. You're going to be okay.
Someday, 30 years out, you might be able to pay off your house if the market doesn't crash again. And what we saw was that the market crashed in 2008 and good people lost their homes. We see again 12 years later, because we've associated a good economy with one where prices continue to inflate, which is what you're doing right now. You're looking at a bar graph, or a line graph that shows prices are going up. They're going up. You better buy it because they're always going to be going up. And I'm telling you that when you print $4 trillion and enter it into the economy, and you do that twice, and you create a business or an economy where opportunity only takes place at the backs of loss, then you're going to be in a situation where people are losing their houses again for the second time in a decade. And I don't think it's going to happen as peacefully. I don't think that people are going to stand by and be as cool with it. Because in California, down in San Diego, just like up here, small business owners, which are the number one employer in the state of California, are running on profit margins which are razor thin. And so when you put them in a situation where they're hit with the bill, they're having to carry a restaurant, which is not bringing in the kind of money that it used to bring in. They're trying to keep the door open down on Main Street. They're in a situation where many of them have already announced we will not be reopening our doors, because what we've required of the American people, instead of bailing them out, we've said, hey, listen, you can bump your mortgage back for 3 months, or you might be able to bump it back for 4 months, but we're going to require a balloon payment to be paid in full in order to keep it going. We might negotiate with you and let you bump it back or to spread it out over 12 months, but all in all, for an economy when 40% of people can't handle a bill of $400 or more, which is unexpected, this is going to absolutely devastate our economy.
It's definitely going to cause problems. There's no question about that. I can't believe stocks are up again today. But I mean,
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you tell a buyer in good faith that for a $400,000 house, which is what a lot of people are qualifying for up here in Riverside County,
okay,
that it is a smart decision for them to pay $2,400 a month when the same house is renting for $600 less a month, and then they're in a situation where, are we going to lose equity in 3 months from now or in 4 months from now? Could we lose $100,000 in equity in a year? And then that $300 or $400 a month that you think that they might be contributing towards a mortgage actually ends up taking a massive hit and putting them underwater.
But do you know that's going to happen? See, that's the problem, is that like if you just assume real estate values are going to go down, it only matters if you're looking to sell your house. I mean, if you signed up for a mortgage that you can afford, which you should be, that's a very important part of getting pre-approved and buying a home, is to make sure you buy something that's within your wheelhouse, something that's comfortable for you financially. Then it doesn't matter what the value of the home is. You know, who cares?
I disagree with you entirely.
Oh, who cares?
It does matter what the value of the house is doing, because you want to be able to pay that off, like you just said. You want to be able to pay it off so that you can own it free and clear. And so we're putting people in a situation where their employment might not be there, which is why we're running verifications of employment, not one time at the beginning of close of or open of escrow, but 3 times. And we're confirming employment 3 days before people close on a loan, because we know that the economy is shifting. We know that people's jobs might not be there, and that housing values are more than likely going to plummet. So in addition to all of this, and you tell me, you don't know that this is going to happen. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can do is I can look to history, and I can say, now listen, historically, when the economy acts like this, when the feds reduce rates to almost zero, that was the last time that we saw massive foreclosures. They're trying to get banks to lend money, and by getting banks to borrow money at a reduced amount, and banks aren't even interested in taking applications right now. Less and less banks are getting involved in the game. More and more banks are selling off the government-backed assets like FHA and VA, and no one is offering VA jumbo anymore. So you might be in the minority if you think that it's a good time to buy real estate.
No one's offering VA jumbo? What do you mean?
So all of the programs that I'm looking at with VA jumbo, which at the beginning of the state was my favorite program, no loan limits, easy to qualify for. You don't have to. It's still the VA no. And what happened was all of the big lenders that were offering VA jumbo, and it was easy to qualify for. Now almost none of them are offering it. People are telling me, "Hey, VA jumbo's off the table." And not only is VA VA jumbo off the table, FICO requirements for most people and most banks are going up to 680, whereas we were not requiring minimum FICOs for VA and FHA on a federal level before.
Well, so here's the thing, though. That's kind of contradictory to what you're saying earlier, because if the banks are tightening guidelines, then that would be good based on your assessment previously that we were going too crazy and allowing too many people to buy homes and running prices up. So you should be excited, based on that position.
No, I'm proving a point to you that historically we're heading towards a cliff. And what happens is when you continue to lend frivolously, like we have done for the last year and a half, and you continue to enter more people artificially into the market, and you continue to raise the amount that people can qualify for while not taking into account how much that's actually costing them monthly, what happens is most people, and I have good people that I work with that are making good money, but they look at the fact that they're qualifying for a mortgage at $400,000, but that's going to cost them $2,400 a month. I can tell you that the same house, 10 years ago, would cost somebody $1,600, $1,700 a month. And so what you're saying is it's a good time to buy because prices are just going to continue to go up because look at this line graph. But what I'm saying is that we are not in a system which is sustainable because we continue to push kick the can down the road by acting like we could continue to raise prices indefinitely. And what I think that we're going to end up seeing is an alternative solutions to housing because we've created a housing crisis. I think people are going to start looking at ADUs, which are accessory dwelling units. People are going to start looking at shared housing. People are already bringing multi-generational families back and, having a granny suite or a casita, tiny houses on the lot. And so people are looking to get more out of their land. They're realizing that they can work from home more than they thought was possible before. And I think that we are going to see a significantly different world than we saw at the beginning of this year that everyone was accounting for on their dream boards.
It's possible. It's totally possible. It's also possible that we could see year over year, by the time 2020 is done, increase in real estate values, even through this pandemic. That's also still possible.
And how long can we continue to do that?
It's hard to say, but it's happened historically since forever. I mean, it doesn't matter how far back you go. You can even go back to the last crash. In fact, you mentioned it. I'll put it up on the screen. The S&P Case-Shiller U.S. National Home Price Index, which gives you an idea of prices across the nation, even during a real estate pandemic that we experienced in 2008, prices are higher now than they were then. So it's one of the things that even if we experience the worst case scenario, you can see it only takes a decade and real estate's back. You also mentioned in 2001, the recession that we reached there. From there, prices never went down. I mean, during that whole recession, prices went up. They never went back. They've never been that low since. So I just don't know, but when we're talking about is it a good time to buy, this is where I really want to get dialed in, because for some people it is and for some people it isn't. That's always going to be the case. It's really more about, in my opinion, having a home ownership strategy. This is where, you have a strategy to own a home, ultimately own a home. I mean, I have a personal experience with this. Both my parents paid off their homes in the last few years. And when they did that, they both retired almost immediately thereafter. And it's because you get options once you own a home free and clear. And there's statistics as well. USA Today, you can look up this article. In fact, I'll post a link to the article below in the thread. And there's a direct correlation between when people retire and when their homes are paid off. And people are keeping their homes longer and keeping mortgages longer and retiring later these days. And so I think it's even more important now than ever for us to encourage people to buy.
Derrick, is you're taking into account years, 2001 to 2020. You're saying that the prices have continued to go up this whole time. You haven't taken into account the cost of living in California. You also haven't taken into account that the fact that most people are still making about the same as in wages per inflation as they were in the 1990s. We haven't seen this great increased living standard for everyone. What we've seen is boomers like your parents, who ended up buying real estate 30 years ago or started buying real estate 30 years ago, are able to buy off their house. But what we're seeing is millennials and Generation Xers are burdened with student loan debt. Most of the jobs that they're getting out of college with a 4-year degree are minimum wage jobs, which are going to be automated away. And so it's not going to be a good time for them to take out a 30-year loan. Prices have gotten too high. When people were buying houses, 30, 40 years ago, it was still a possibility that they would buy them in 10 or 15 years. Now, because of all of the bureaucracies in California, how hard we make it for builders, we require solar now on new houses. We've absolutely handcuffed developers in this state, and because the system is not sustainable, because cost of living has been so accelerated, home ownership is less and less likely for our generation as it is our parents' generation, just like retirement is less and less likely.
Okay, yeah, and that's possible, but we're now prognosticating pretty far into the future. I mean, I guess my question to you would be, what's a better strategy? Because if I can own a home, which and I actually want to get back to the point of the price doesn't matter, because if you buy a house, the real estate is a long game. It's not a short game. If you're into the short game,
the dollar is going to keep inflating.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. If I buy a house for $300,000 today, and 5 years from now it's worth $1 million or it's worth $1, it doesn't make a difference. If I plan on living there and I'm going to own it myself free and clear one day, and that's my plan, then it doesn't make any difference. All that's happening is my real estate taxes are going up or down, one of the two. But if I have a strategy to own that home free and clear, that's part of my retirement strategy. Because if I do nothing else, if I save no money, if I buy no stocks, if I have no 401k, but I have a paid off home at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay. And guess what? A lot of people in my family are going to be potentially okay too, because I could house them potentially if they need help. But I just don't see how.
If they believed you that it was a good time to buy, they would keep it easy for people to buy right now. And it's not a good time to buy. We have unemployment surging. We don't know how much longer this pandemic is going to continue. We don't know when people are going to get back to work. And we don't know how devastating of an effect this is going to have on our economy. So if nothing else, people should wait 2 or 3 weeks, 2 or 3 months, take a deep breath or two if they have the luxury of being able to do so, and see what happens to the economy, because historically in an election year, we don't see these, consumer confidence, which continues to drive prices up anyway. genuinely believe it would benefit from taking a step back. And you asked me, what is the answer? What is the alternative? And the alternative is land. Land right now it's never going to, they can't print more of it like money, like the dollar. There's only so much land out there. And what's happening is through innovation, not through bureaucracy, we've been able to see housing be innovated through ADUs, through schoolies, through Conex box homes, through modular homes, to where it's becoming more and more affordable for people to seek alternative solutions to housing, to get multiple generations on one plot of land. More and more people are seeking that family compound, but they have to get it zoned properly. And that's, again, where we're going to run into a wall in the state of California, is that it's not easy to go from having something zoned R1 to getting it zoned R3 or R4.
Yeah, no, yeah. And anything involving the state of California is not going to be quick and easy or cheap. That's for sure.
The only thing I talk about is the state of California.
So, yeah, and it's ditto. I mean, basically, same here. I mean, that's obviously where I'm doing business, where you're doing business, where we both live. Tell me about the Temecula market. I'll just give you an idea of where I'm at here in San Diego. I mean, I'm in multiple offers on every deal, man. I'm still only getting deals if I know somebody. What is going on up there? Is it different up there?
So I opened escrow on Friday for some buyers that relocated out here, active duty sailor. I have a listing that's hitting the market for a Marine whose dad is a soldier, and he had an operation he has to sell. I am seeing multiple offer situations. Things are going smoothly right now, because what's happened is the serious buyers and the serious sellers haven't gone anywhere. They still need to buy or sell. And I don't think that that's something that is going to change. Coming out of this pandemic, you're going to see divorces happen. You're going to see people who need to downsize, people who've lost their jobs and need to sell. All sorts of things are going to change, and I think that we're going to see more real estate come available. But in addition to that, we might end up seeing a situation where we might see a national rent strike or a national mortgage strike. We might see a situation where, because 30% of people can't continue to pay their bills, where this might continue to drag on. And so I just don't think that it's a great time to enter into the buying pool. I still am going to tell my clients that. I'm going to advise them and tell them accordingly, and then I'm going to help them do the things that they need to do. I read a report this morning that was released saying that Riverside County is projected to be the third hardest hit county in the nation after COVID-19 clears, and the number one hit county in the state of California.
Wow.
And I saw that on Facebook this morning. I can't remember what the source is, because I'm autistic. I take the article, I take the facts, and I don't really care about the source. I'm just sort of, maybe it was a meme. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was a news source. And so the thing is I think that no matter how good things are right now, and no matter, because still we are optimistic. There's still people that are saying this might clear by Easter, and I think that they need to get real, because the schools aren't planning on it being cleared by Easter. No one really is. People are getting arrested right now for being out without so we're just in a situation where there's too much up in the air, and I think that we're going to see housing prices come down. I think we're going to see it happen in California more than a lot of the other places in the country. I think it's going to speed up automation, and you're going to see less and less people returning to work, but more and more businesses like Amazon and Walmart that see a boom after something like this. And so it's not necessarily going to be good things for small business in California. It's not going to be good things for homeowners. And I strongly suggest to people to wait 2 to 3 months at least, if not 6 months, to see whether or not situations might clear up. There might be more inventory, and prices might come down.
Let me ask you this. So let's say I'm a buyer, and I've got a lease that's coming at the end. Let's say 60 days from now, and so you would suggest that I should rent for another year?
I literally have a buyer that I'm in this situation right now. I served with him in Afghanistan, and he's renting right now in Riverside. He's been renting for a long time. He rents a house. He rents for $1,700 a month. I'm taking him around because he's qualified at $400,000. All of the payments at $400,000 are about $2,400 a month, and so he would be spending $700 more a month. He was expecting that he would be spending about $300 to $400 more a month in order to upgrade. Not that much. And so I told him, let's continue to look. I'm taking him out more than likely this weekend to go and see a couple of houses which he likes. But I told him, I said, listen, you're in a rare situation that you know that your job isn't going away. You know that your wife's income isn't going away. You know that you can continue to afford this mortgage payment indefinitely. And that even if the mortgage takes a hit and prices come down in 6 months or a year, you are looking to get on land, which is what he's looking to do, so that you can create more opportunities, develop it, and create equity for you and your family, which is a different situation than a lot of people are in. A lot of people are in suburbia, and they're looking to luxury buy. They're looking to upgrade their house just for a little bit more because they're looking to downsize just because. And the thing is, if they're looking to upgrade or downsize, they're going to buy and sell in the same market. But if you're a new buyer who's looking to enter this market right now, because your mom and dad and Derrick Evans are telling you that they should always buy real estate, invest in their future, I would say hold off for 6 months. Look at how unsure everything is in the market, and worst case scenario, you renegotiated your rent for another 6 months, which is what I'm telling him to do in the event that we don't find what he's looking for. Or prices stay the same because they're not going to skyrocket. I don't think that we're going to come out of this and it's going to be like, oh my God, back to work. President Trump says it's okay. Everyone reopen your businesses. Stimulus package for everyone. That's not what's going to happen. And unless something like that happens and we're really green out the gate, we're going to suffer the consequences. And so people who are buying, like the first-time buyers or people who are trying to buy after getting foreclosed on last time, take a deep breath for 6 months.
Yeah, and I can, you could be right. No doubt about it. It's possible that you could be right. But
right,
here's where, but if you're wrong, it's very expensive. Because if you tell me to rent and I go and spend $20,000 on rent and I also don't get to spend that year paying down my mortgage, getting 1 year into my 30 years I need to be in, and let's say the price of the house goes up $10,000, that could happen. That could happen too. So now you've told me to wait, thinking it would be safer, and it's put me into a worse situation. So I like risk reward wise, I like getting the clock ticking, and if I can afford it and I like the house and it fits with my long-term plan, then I should pull the trigger.
Skyrocketed, brother.
Yeah, if I lost my job, I shouldn't buy a house for sure.
Afford it, you're in the minority, and you might be that guy who's out playing the stock market right now, or the guy who sees opportunity in a shifting market. But for most people, they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to buy groceries this month. They're worried about how they're going to make their mortgage payment or make their rent payment on the first without having their landlord kick them out. And so we're going to have different conversations naturally in the real estate world than other people are having in the normal world, where they have real bills. And, they didn't go to a great college that their parents sent them through. Most Californians are not privileged in any way, shape, or form. They live in a very harsh reality. And so I don't think that we've put anyone in a situation, or many people in a situation, where they could say right now, without a doubt in their mind, that right now is a good time to buy.
Yeah, and it depends on what that means.
Different than it was a few years ago.
Because if you're an investor, a lot of investors aren't buying because for them they want to sell 90 days from now and they would prefer to take a breather. But if you have a long-term outlook, which is what I always I'm preaching every day, please have a long-term outlook. Don't buy real estate because you think it's going to go up, $100,000 in the next 2 years. That's the wrong reason to buy. It should be a much slower, much more long-term, situation. I don't think we should look at it like it's a stock.
The number one thing that I said to my clients who I opened escrow with on Friday, I said, he was saying to me, he goes, listen, I really want to buy a house, but I really want to get an investment opportunity. I said, you can't do both right now. I can't tell you that if you want to get an investment opportunity, I want to take you down to San Diego County and let's look at some fourplexes. I'll have you live in one of them, and then we'll rent out the other three, and that's going to be a really good investment opportunity come hell or high water 3 years from now. But if you want a really good investment opportunity and you want a house that you really love right now, one of those things might have to give. And so I said, it might be, what do you want right now? And what he wants is he wants his dream house. He wants a beautiful home. He's, an E8 in the Navy, and the sky's the limit for him. He's not going to get laid off next month by the Navy. And so it's a good time for him He understands that he might take a hit to his equity. And so I'm not telling everyone that it's a bad time to buy, but I'm telling everyone that if they do buy, that in their equity takes a hit in the next year, are they going to need to sell in a year? Are they going to need to sell in 2 years? Or are they in a situation where them and their family are going to be comfortable for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, as long as you have 10 years, you're okay. I mean, you draw a line from where the top was, and actually the Union Tribune did this, and I have this graph. Damn it, I should have put it in. I should have loaded it up. Because, if you look at from the top, before the mortgage crisis, before the crash, 10 years later, we're up 7%, even after the crash where we lost 40%. So if you have 10 years, it doesn't matter. And
I tell people the people that lost their butt are the people that either lost their jobs, or the people that panic sold, or the people that panic bought. And so the long-term holds always do well. But most people are not in a situation to where they're long-term holding. The average Californian moves once every 7 years. And that's because we have a consumer mindset where we always want something different than what we have. And so in a market where you and I both know for the last 10 years, if someone bought and 3 years later they got orders and they had to move somewhere else, they could sell and probably make some money and walk out with a little bit of equity in their pocket. But now it's a different conversation that I'm having with active duty sailors. It's a different conversation that I'm having with people that are like, hey, listen, what's your long-term solution like? Are you going to be here for at least 2 years? Are you going to be here for 3 years? If you had to sell in 3 years, is it going to devastate you? And so I tell them, if the market returns at an average of 2 to 3% a year, and let's say it's 3%, and you get a 3% equity year after year, then you need to be able to hold on to your house for 3 years in order to sell and have a little bit of jingle in your pocket after you walk away without having real estate commissions and escrow drive you under. And that's been the case for a long time. And I can't tell people without a doubt in my mind that in 3 years they're going to be able to sell. I can't tell them that they're going to be able to rent out their house and have their mortgage payment covered. And so there's just too much up in the air for me to be so cavalier as to tell my average buyers, which my average buyers are your VA, FHA clients, who a lot of them don't have two coins to rub together, and they're cash poor people who are looking to create a wise financial investment to set them and their families up for success. And not all of them have the benefits of being able to have a 10-year plan or have parents that they can lean back on. And so when you're your last line of defense, you have to make intelligent financial decisions that don't necessarily benefit from having investor friends that are telling you which stocks to buy.
And I don't think that's necessary. That's part of what's great about real estate, in my opinion, is you don't need to be savvy. All you need to have is a long-term plan. That's it. And if you are unable to have a long-term plan, then you have to have multiple options for exit strategy. Your only exit strategy can't be that, okay, well, we'll just sell it and we'll for sure be okay. Because real estate markets can change. There's no doubt about it. Prices of homes can go up and they can go down. Both can and will happen. So you don't want...
In 4 months from now, or even by the end of this year, Derrick Evans, let's put your name on something here.
Okay.
All right. Just in order to, let's make this the real estate debate show here, and let's really put our names on something.
Let's do it.
Do you think that we're more than likely, by the end of this year, going to see a 10% increase or a 10% decrease in property values?
I doubt we'll see either, but my guess is that it will be positive year over year. When we look at 2020 median price versus 2019 median price in San Diego County, this is my county, I think we will be higher.
You got a lot of faith. I hope you're right, brother. I genuinely do. I hope you're right.
It's not even that I'm trying to be right or prognosticating. I've been bearish on real estate many times in the past when I believed that it was time to do so, and I was correct about those situations. I don't think we are in a situation to do that yet. Yeah, we have things that are happening, but if the worst case scenarios come true and the 34% unemployment happens, okay, and that's the worst case projections that are out there, that is 100% going to be devastating to the economy. And the question is, how many home buyers would something like that take off the table? How many home sellers would that create? Because the real problem when the economy shifts that causes issues with real estate is if you lose buyers and gain sellers, right? That's the imbalance that that can be created that is an issue. And that's what we saw last time. We lost buyers and gained sellers. And so the pendulum went like that. We went from a seller's market to a strong buyer's market super fast. I don't really see that happening here. I think people have too much equity. I don't think you're going to see short sales, a whole lot of them, although there's a trickle here and there. But for the most part, real estate makes a lot of sense because there's still a record-setting amount of cash on the sidelines, and there's a good reason. Bonds are paying nothing now. No one should trust the stock market. The stock market is still way over. It was up 700 points today. It makes no sense at all. It's manipulated. It's horseshit. I wouldn't trust it for anything. But one thing that people do understand, one thing that people can win with is real estate. And I think that's why we see real estate values go up a lot of times in recessions, except for the last one, because it's something that people can go back to. It used to be in the old days, gold was something people went to, was something that was a hard asset. It made sense, but real estate's that now.
I like where you're going with this as a thought. And this would be under the understanding that real estate will continue to be something that is going to hold value. And so when you've got people talking about bankrupting the Fed, and you've got the Fed $26 trillion or something like that in debt. We printed $4 trillion this year. We printed $4 trillion under President Obama. We spend $38 million an hour on war. We have a lot of things that we've been spending money on for a long time. The number one thing that we spend money on in the state of California is education. And we've seen what has happened to education in the state of California. And so what I think that we've had is we have a swelling of the proletariat. We have a swelling of the lower class. We have more and more wealth disparity. And so you're going to see less and less people that are interested in entering suburbia. And I think you're going to see more and more people that are interested in stretching their dollar a little further. And you're going to see more multi-generation families in California.
No doubt. You have to. I mean, California is such a unique situation that that's already happening and has been happening for some time now. Even prior to the last crash that we experienced, some of that stuff was starting. Now the city of San Diego, I don't know what it's like up there, but the city of San Diego has basically said ADUs, go right ahead. They're just...
That's exactly what happened. But you know what happened along with ADUs, which is making ADUs, again, a not sustainable option, is they started offering 30-year loans on ADUs. That's one of the biggest problems. What has happened over the course of the last 40 or 50 years is we've become a society where we are cash poor. We are broke.
True.
We are in debt. We are in credit card debt. Our houses are $500,000 house in the suburb that's on a 5,000 square foot lot. And we're in a situation where we are just hoping to get out of debt, to not lose our jobs, and to not have some sort of a medical issue so that we don't give our children a massive burden to be left with when we die. I see more and more people on reverse mortgages and less and less people getting the title to their home. It was an encouraging stat that you read saying that people are owning their homes. But when I look around to the left and the right of me, and when I have my listing appointment with everyday American here in Riverside County, people are telling me that they refinanced their homes again, that they took out the equity, that they extended it to another 30 years. Less and less people are posting on Facebook, today's the day that I paid off my house. And then they walk down from the friendly local banker, and then the banker hands them the title that they had printed off out back. That's not the real estate market that we have anymore. And so to idolize that and to look back at it through rose-colored lenses and think that this is something that's going to return, it's either disingenuous or it might be a little bit intellectually lazy. But I think that real estate as a whole, yes, will continue to go up in the long term, potentially. But are there going to be enough people to keep it inflated here in the short term to make it so that people don't end up losing their butt cheeks over the course of the next couple of years? I don't think so.
It's totally possible, once again, but I don't want to. So the things that you say economically sort of make me think that you believe in like going back to the gold standard or something like that, where we have much higher interest rates and prices were lower. because that's when we had the most savings, as a country, was back then. So if that's your idea of, the optimal situation, that's what you'd be talking about. But what I'm saying is that each individual has the chance to make a choice for themselves. And I'm sure sailors and Marines and soldiers as well, who actually went and used their VA home loan benefit, bought a home, and many years later had tons of equity, or were in a much better financial position because they did it. Yeah. So I mean, like, and me personally, same thing. So I just don't. I don't know how I could not want to go out and tell people, look, this is a way, because I don't know how else. You mentioned legacy earlier. If I'm trying to think about my kids here, what's a better way for me to leave a sure-footed legacy for them than to go out and make the sacrifice, whatever's necessary, to own a home, free and clear? What's a better way for me to do something for them?
How old are you, Derrick?
40, almost.
You're almost 40.
Almost.
Okay, so just a little bit under 40.
A little under 40.
So a lot of the people, our generation, we were the last people to squeak out with maybe $75,000 or $80,000 in student loan debt. A lot of the people that are entering the workforce today are not that lucky. They're lucky to get a job when they graduate from college. And so I'm less optimistic than you are. I'm optimistic in that I think that COVID-19 is bringing about sort of a egoic death to our society. People, and what happened historically was, after the Black Death, was enlightenment, Renaissance. Education became important. Home ownership became accessible to, or not home ownership, but land ownership became accessible to everybody. And so I think that we have a renaissance coming. I think we have an awakening coming. And with that awakening, there will be less and less people that are going to want to bury themselves in debt for 30 years. And they'll understand that they can create an economical situation through alternative housing like tiny houses, schoolies, Conex box homes, etc., which are not going to be create 30-year debt, but is the kind of thing that you could pay off in a couple of years. And then now you could create debt in a more liquid situation for your children. Now, do I think that we should be returning to a gold standard? No, I don't think we should be returning to a gold standard. I think that that's ridiculous at this situation. I think that it would be more likely to turn the page on the gold standard and go to some sort of a cryptocurrency going forward. I think that federally, on a national level, we can't continue to sustain the sort of international debt that we have and the international relationships that we've sustained. And so I think that we need to get to a situation where, as Californians, maybe we're looking at the federal government and we're saying, are we still going to be in on this dollar thing forever? Are we going to still continue to let the United States act however the way that it wants to act and still continue to be a part of this? So ideally, I'd love to see a California republic where people are more involved in their local and state government. And if we can't see a return to a republic, I'd like to see a return to federalism where people are getting more involved and not letting government run amok and big business run amok. Because the reason that we're all getting so frustrated is that big banks can do whatever they want. They could drive up the prices indefinitely.
They've always been able to.
And get bailed out.
Yeah, they've always been able to. That's been their MO forever. It's disgusting.
And
but
that's what's frustrating. And so we don't want to have a debt-based system in which we're burying ourselves in debt. And the hope is, maybe I could someday leave this for my children. Well, you know what? Maybe right now your children don't need you to work 50 or 60 hours a week to pay off a house for them. Maybe they need you to pick them up from basketball practice. Maybe they need you to to volunteer at their school. And so I think that there's a shifting in priorities that is not going to return back to the way that we all wanted it to be before. We're seeing more people that are looking at life through spiritual lenses. They're looking at it through lenses that they want to enjoy this life. They don't want to enjoy life when they may or may not retire 30 years from now, when maybe they get cancer, maybe they get hit by a car. But we're seeing a situation where our futures are less and less likely. People are becoming hopeless. And you cannot look at the world and say, suicide is skyrocketing. Hopelessness is off the charts. And this is across the boards. People are the number one fundraiser in America is for people who can't afford their medical bills. And so I don't look at this and I don't look at it and I don't see a country that has its own people and people's well-being person feels like they're being represented anymore. And so I think that the system is not sustainable. People are waking up to that. This is not the kind of thing that COVID-19 came along and was like, hey, listen, I'm COVID-19, everyone's going to get a little bit sick, and now, oh my gosh, it's a big event. No, the system was already broken. People were already priced out of the market. People were already spending way too much monthly than they should be spending, and the only reason why they were able to be afforded a $400,000 loan is because we kept reducing mortgage rates. So either we're going to revisit the system, or we're going to continue to kick the can down the road. If we continue to kick the can down the road, you're absolutely right. Just keep buying real estate. Maybe we could start giving people 50-year loans so that they could buy more houses. But if not, and if we actually decide to revisit the system and decide whether or not we want to bankrupt our children just for the sake of them being alive, then I think that we're going to revisit it. And if we revisit it, then values will necessarily have to come down.
And that's possible. It's totally possible that could happen. And I guess we shall see. So let me put this question on you, since you asked me, but you didn't tell us. Where do you think real estate values will be by the end of the year? Up or down 10%?
Down. I think they'll be down. And I'll tell you why. I think that we've got, we're going to see unemployment continue to rise. We already have a shadow class in California of unemployed veterans who are collecting disability, people who have been removed from the workforce because the job that they had before no longer exists. We've attacked the gig economy in California and made it more difficult for independent contractors to continue to feed their families.
True.
And so we're pushing the whole economy underground. And so if you continue to push an economy underground, people aren't going to stop working. They're going to stop paying taxes. They're going to stop making it so that their wages are recorded. And the biggest shadow class that we have right now, which is going to come to the forefront, is the American immigrant. The people out there that are living in the shadows, that are working, that are unfortunately not in a situation where they could contribute their taxes and make this economy improve. Instead, they're put in a situation where they continue to live in the shadows, and we shouldn't accept that as Californians. We should be better than that and understand our own history and where 99% of us came from, because if we don't start treating human beings like human beings, and we keep treating them like a bottom line, like an economic issue, then we're going to continue to feel that way in our lives. Our work weeks will get longer, like the Japanese, or we will be less involved with our children, and suicide and hopelessness will continue to skyrocket. And for all of those reasons, I think that the American people are going to wake up, and we're going to see a pretty big fall in prices by the end of the year.
All right, my friend. Well, David Serpa, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it, man. It's always good to talk to you. And once this clears up, we'll have to do it together in the studio again soon.
Hey, Derrick, I just appreciate you being willing to hear me out and let me talk. I know that I'm very long-winded. This is Autism Awareness Month. I'm autistic. And so you give me an opportunity to just talk. And the best thing about coming on your show, the best thing about talking to you is I had 1,005,000 people shouting me down, saying, oh, the sky is falling, this guy's this. I had a lot of people cheering me on, but I only had one person come in the comment and say, I'd like to have an intellectual conversation with you about this.
Thank you for that. I take that as a major compliment, my friend.
Absolutely. Keep pushing the ball forward.
Okay. Thank you, brother. Have a good one, man.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
That's David Serpa. Good guy, has a lot to say. He's we can shout here. Boom, the one-man production show. So he had some good things to say. He brings up good points. Yeah, we do have unemployment situation going on right now that is pretty bad, and that's definitely going to affect companies. It's definitely going to affect stocks. People are definitely going to be laid off. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And so the question is, will real estate values be impacted in the short term? I think it's possible. Although I believe it to be unlikely. In the long term, I don't think there's anything you can do about real estate values. It's just a simple supply and demand equation. And there's not enough supply, and there's an exponentially growing demand. But really good conversation with David Serpa, and I look forward to having him on the show again in the future. I will post a link below of the article that I was talking about earlier. Let me know if you have questions, and share this if you would like to help make your friends smarter than everyone else. Thanks for tuning in. And once I figure out how to turn this off,